are now entering the horror sanctum.
Welcome back, my brothers and sisters, to the Horror Sanctum, and happy Thanksgiving week. I'm Jay, as always, joined by John, Kelan, TJ, and this week we've decided to look back at an 80s Thanksgiving classic. So grab a turkey leg, scoop some gravy, and put that knife down as we discuss 1987's Blood Rage. John, I'm going to let you kick us off.
Awesome. So Blood Rage. Blood Rage is a 1987 film. It's a slasher film. It was actually filmed in 1983, which when you watch the film, you can sort of tell that it was a early 80s type of movie. Didn't come out until 87, came out to a very small theatrical release. Basically, the story of Blood Rage, it's kind of an odd one. It's the story of two brothers, Todd and Terry. Both are played by the same guy, the actor Mark Soper. And basically the story is that early in the film, the two brothers are with their mom at a drive-in theater. One of the brothers decides to go crazy, kills somebody, blames the twin brother, and the mom thinks the twin, right. The mom thinks the twin brother did it. So they commit the twin brother, and the twin brother is Todd, the one that gets blamed. So he goes to a mental institution and basically he's at the mental institution for years. Years later, he breaks out. He decides to come home. It just so happens to be Thanksgiving Day when he comes home. And basically, yeah, carnage and murder, your typical slasher fare happens from there. It then becomes a matter of, which brother's going to live. Can Todd convince everyone that, Terry is actually the one that's responsible for all of this? So yeah, it's kind of an interesting, sort of whodunit, but also like a cat and mouse thing between the two brothers. The first thing I did want to say, though, that was kind of interesting is I noticed this throughout the film, and I watched this on Tubi. Throughout the movie, like a lot of movies on Tubi, there was a ridiculous ad. And the one that I kept seeing it was called Solitaire Grand Harvest, and it had an animated dog and Jane Seymour. So that's what Dr. Quinn is doing in 2022. She's doing Tubi ads. So I thought that was kind of funny. Really gratuitous, violent scene cut to Dr. Quinn.
Well, those 1800 doctors didn't have the same kind of 401ks that they do now.
Nah.
This is true.
Got to get that extra money.
Must have not sold enough of those heart necklaces.
Right. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, the very beginning of the movie. I don't want to delve too far into the idea of exactly what happens throughout the movie, but just kind of bits and pieces. The first scene, when basically Terry kills the person at the drive-in, blames Todd, and the people are gathered around, and the mom is consoling Terry and blaming Todd. Did you notice Santa Claus is there?
I did not notice that. No.
Yes, there is a bearded man who looks exactly like Santa Claus. He even looks like he's wearing Santa Claus's attire, and he's just kind of standing there watching. So I thought that was very interesting.
Well, Santa's always watching you.
It's true. It's because as I watched this again, it gave me a lot of Silent Night, Deadly Night vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that a lot. So that ties into it. You know what I noticed at the very beginning, and I wrote this down. So apparently, I guess we all know this, drive-ins are an aphrodisiac, obviously. Everybody that was at this drive-in, they didn't care what movie was showing. They just wanted to get it on. And then when Terry and Todd's mother was with that guy, and she's like, wait, the kids. And he's like, they're fine. If you look they have like an assault rifle across them
Yeah,
on top of
yes.
the blanket,
M16.
and then it disappears.
Yes.
And then it disappears. So when you watch this for the first time, you're like, "Oh shit!" Like I know what's about to happen. Like he's gonna pick up that gun, but then the gun just magically disappears.
It magically reappears later when he's in his old childhood bedroom, which makes you think it's a toy, probably, but it was back in the early 80s before the orange cap days, so they all just look real anyway.
That's true. That's true. I thought that was funny. It just kind of disappeared.
Definitely.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I just thought it was so funny. Last time I went to the drive-in was like Minions 2. Like, there's no getting it on with Minions 2 playing in the background, you know?
Not really.
You didn't try to share your banana.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying it was weird.
Well, hopefully you didn't have two 12-year-olds asleep in your back seat either.
No, and no real and or fake assault rifles either. I thought Mark Soper did a great job playing both. Like,
yeah, surprise.
Yeah,
and
he's tremendous.
And Louise Lasser played the mom. She's like the only well-known actor in the film at that time, I believe. But I read that she was like incredibly hard to work with. But like, you know what? You're kind of at the twilight of your career. This is kind of what you get now. You know, you just have to suck it up and roll with the punches.
Yeah, and she had like sort of you could tell obviously she was crazy, and maybe that there was some hereditary genetic craziness being passed down from mother to son. But I thought it was interesting because
I think there's more things being passed from mother to son there too, possibly.
That's what I noticed too, is there seems to be like maybe a little bit of an incestuous relationship with Terry and the mom maybe going on, some hanky-panky odd,
because he goes in for a kiss in the beginning too. When they find out Todd escaped, like they go in for an embrace, and he kind of goes for the lips, and then she kind of like goes with the cheek. Like it was very odd.
Well, then later she asks him when she's in bed and he's like leaving. She asks him, and then they just straight up kiss on the lips.
Yeah. I've never had that type of relationship with a family member.
No,
the Tom Brady.
What?
You've never seen the pictures of Tom Brady kissing his dad on the mouth?
Oh, wow! No, I haven't.
We'll share
later.
that.
You're
we'll
welcome.
Share that on Instagram for reference.
Maybe that gives you special football powers.
That's why Giselle left.
One thing I did notice about this movie too is it's it's got some great practical effects, of course, but one thing that's really like obvious about this movie is it's very Florida. It's filmed in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Florida. I feel like the only thing missing in this movie is like a Pineapple Willie's and like a surf shop. It's just screaming Florida, right? But I think with
I'm pretty
this
sure
movie,
that's the same complex that Seinfeld's parents lived in. So that's exactly what it looks like. That's the feels I get.
Yeah, that would be kind of a funny crossover tie-in.
It's very clear that the producers just apparently knew a guy that had access to an apartment complex or owned an apartment complex, because initially, this kind of goes into one of the history type things. Initially, this film was going to be called The Complex. And if you look in the title screen, the company that they formed, the production company to make the movie, is called The Complex.
Yeah, it was The Complex, and then they changed it to Slasher, which Kelan had brought up before we watched it. And then they went to Blood Rage, and then it was released again, Nightmare at Shadow Woods.
Yep.
So it's like 4 different titles.
Yeah.
Interesting. Kelan, what did you think of this? What were your thoughts watching?
This is.
Do you want to start with me?
I did this.
Start with me.
Yeah, I did this specifically because I've heard you were not a fan, so I definitely wanted to see the opposite end of the spectrum.
So that was straight garbage from beginning to end. You're welcome. And I'll go through all of the issues that I had. Nothing makes sense. Not anything that ever happens in the entire movie makes any sense. Hey, your psycho brother just broke out of the insane asylum. Let's go make out in the bedroom while everybody continues to eat Thanksgiving dinner like nothing's happening. Read the room. Yeah. Then, let's go all our separate ways. Nobody buddy up. Don't take a buddy with you. What are we doing? Oh, we're trying to find a psycho killer. don't worry, I'll be fine with this trank gun in the woods by myself, which, by the way, he was 30 feet away before he killed her. She not once tried to pull the trank gun up and point it in the direction. She just goes for a good 10 seconds, and then they cut away and they cut back, and she's cut in half. Did you run out of budget for making the murder? I mean, like, most of the kills in the movie, it's like they spent the entire budget on the one hand that's crumpling the Coke can when he cuts off the landlord's hand.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely the best part. They spent the entire budget on that, and they're like, we can't film her getting cut in half, so we just have to accept that that's what happened. So much in the movie doesn't make any sense. Why was she sitting in the floor of the kitchen eating the Thanksgiving dinner? Look,
she was crazy.
Well, that's part of her insanity.
She has to be.
Yeah,
she has to be. She's wearing a shirt that has her boobs hanging out half the time, and when I first started watching, I was like, why does this teen girl look like she's 40? Oh, because she is 40 and smokes 40 Marlboros a day, because her voice was awful. It was so bad. I kept waiting. I love cheesy, horrible B movies. I kept waiting for this to be good, and it just kept finding new ways to be bad. And before I finished, whoever wrote the line, "That's not cranberry sauce," must have been real proud of it, because they said it 5 times.
Five times? I have that in my notes. I was going to ask you guys, how many times do you think Terry said that line? It is 5.
Oh, I thought it was 3. I really checked 3 for sure.
He repeated it like 3 times in a row towards the end.
Yeah, he says it on his shirt. He says it to the guy when he pulls the machete up. "That's not cranberry sauce." And then he says it, like he said, 3 times in a row.
But in his defense, it wasn't cranberry sauce.
That's true. That's true. That's factually
accurate. Because I think they were. I don't think that they actually wrote this movie. I think somebody burst into a room with the idea, twin brothers, one of them's a psycho killer, and they wrote the movie in front of camera. Because nothing made sense the whole time. I was like, I guarantee the director's behind the camera right now going, "What if we did this?" And they're like, "Yeah, shoot it." Like, that's how that movie felt to me. Even all the way to the ending. Even the ending didn't make sense. At no point did anybody remotely even try to fight back. I don't care, Todd, Terry. They didn't even look the same. Their hair was different. How do you know? You're the mother. How do you not know that the coiffed hair guy standing across the pool is Terry, and the one that looks like he hasn't showered in a month is Todd? Because Todd looked the exact same the entire time. Curly, nappy hair. Terry, coiffed, perfect, late 70s, early 80s hair. You couldn't tell them apart?
Well, Todd just always looked like he just come out of the sauna with his clothes on, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
The whole movie.
Well, a lot of it,
and again, I'm sorry, if you put a gun in somebody's hand in this movie, they are not pulling the trigger until the very end. That 2 different people had a gun at different points in the movie. The woman, the girlfriend, I swear to God, I'll kill you. He's 10 feet away. He walks up and just pushes her over. Okay.
It's a slap. Well, I mean,
rant over.
Oh, you liked it. I got it. Noted.
I mean, it's
we'll get to the ratings later.
It's an 80s slasher. I mean, I think I can definitely understand that argument. I think there's definitely like I don't want to get ahead of myself, but yeah, that definitely ties into my rating, because I think there was some self-awareness there with the film. What about you, TJ? What do you think? What was your thoughts?
Well, this movie is apparently so forgettable that I forgot that I had watched this like 10 or 15 years ago on FearNet on Comcast back in the before Shudder days, when you just had to go with whatever was on demand on digital cable. And FearNet was like the first attempt at like a real horror channel before they merged with the Chiller network. It was all owned by Comcast. And I used to just spam whatever was playing that I hadn't heard of. And clearly I thought The Sound of Blood Rage at some point sounded awesome, and watched this turd of a movie. I mean, it is a turd of a movie. It's you shine it up. It's
you
got
put
charm.
The baby in a cabinet.
It's got charm as a turd of a slasher film, but totally unmemorable, because all the things that I love about slasher films and I love about like whodunits and giallos is like either who is the killer, or is the killer particularly menacing and like super powered and really scary. This movie has neither of those things. You know from the first scene exactly who the killer is, and yeah, they have the twin brother and they blame the twin brother, but like the audience clearly the whole time knows. And this dude, to be a jock, playing football and stuff, and wearing, like, everybody, this is one of the historical things, is like literally every character practically wears full on Nike
Yeah.
the whole time, not just the shoes, like the whole deal. This dude is the scrawniest jock I've ever seen. I don't believe he plays any sports. I'm surprised that he can hold up that small ass machete just to be able to do all this killing. I mean,
Stolen valor is what that is. Stolen valor.
Yeah, exactly. It's very clear that they just shoehorned in the whole Thanksgiving deal, because this movie has nothing to do with Thanksgiving other than they have this scene where the mom and the stepdad, or soon to be stepdad, are saying, they're revealed that they're getting married, which apparently triggers this guy, because even at the although obviously they were having sex, or they're not just jumping to, like, suddenly this guy who's obviously here at Thanksgiving dinner, he's been here before, like, why is just, I don't know. It makes no sense to me that just saying, oh, we're actually getting married, suddenly is going to be the thing that makes you crazy. Or,
well, she was a whore.
Well, yeah,
that was established in the beginning too, and that's another reason why it gave me that Silent Night, Deadly Night feels, because every time she was with the guy in the beginning, and the kid, whichever one, said, well, there she goes again, or whatever. Like, obviously, it's a recurring theme for her to have different men in their lives. So that was always, I just kept wanting him to say naughty, and put her through some antlers.
That would have been great. That would have been more entertaining than half the things that happen in this movie. One thing I did notice was this movie looks like an early 80s slasher, because it is. Yep. It was filmed in 1983, but not released until 87, probably because it's a dog turd and they couldn't sell it to a distributor.
Damn. No love.
And yet, surprisingly, has a 5.8 on IMDb, which is a lot higher than most slashers of the same ilk. So apparently a lot of people have some nostalgia for this thing.
That's partly my fault.
Yeah, just Jay has like 1,000 ghost accounts to do 10 ratings on IMDb. Yeah, John said all of the nature trails were filmed at the University of Florida. Yeah, I think we've touched on all the other interesting facts that I had taken down. I'm surprised that of the 4 titles of this movie, since they obviously shoehorned the whole Thanksgiving idea, and they really tried to get over that's not cranberry sauce line and everything, just to try and tie it back to, oh yeah, remember this one time we had a turkey and we said it was Thanksgiving, that they never had one of their 4 titles have anything to do with Thanksgiving. You would think this would be like, let's just call it Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving.
I think that's smart though, because here's why. Why did we watch this movie? For Thanksgiving, because it's the week of Thanksgiving. That's why we watched it. Yeah. You take away that part of this movie, would we go back and rewatch it?
Exactly, but they should have exploited that to try and make it like a Halloween or one of these seasonal things, or like a My Bloody Valentine that people would watch every year around this time, because there wasn't a lot of Thanksgiving movies. I don't know if there was any Thanksgiving movies in 1983 when they were filming this. So it was a good idea.
Blood Feast, was that one?
That's a
Herschel Gordon Lewis movie in the 60s. Is that anything to do with?
I don't know. It's like a giant turkey or something, right?
Well, isn't there? There's a horror franchise that revolves around a killer turkey.
Well, that's Thanksgiving.
That's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Classic, obviously.
Yeah, I will say the title has sort of a double meaning though, because it's funny. I guess this is obvious, but Blood Rage, it's like, obviously it's a slasher, Blood Rage, but it's also Blood Siblings, Blood Rage, right? So it's kind of of the titles, I do like it the most. Yeah, I didn't think about that until today, oddly enough, but I do like the title, but I agree, TJ, that they could have They could have capitalized more on the Thanksgiving gimmick for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for a 1983 filmed thing that was obviously super low budget, just using whatever available resources they had. Granted, they didn't show the actual kills of a lot of things, but the gore effects and stuff that they did have were better than I expected them to be. Like, I didn't expect to see. Granted, you didn't see the girl cut in half, but you saw her in two pieces. You know, that's better than a lot of these early '80s slasher films. I think the thing that's a little was just internally something was off with the gore to me. It was not just the low budget, but it was the fact that the early '80s slashers, which this actually is, and the late '80s slashers really ramped up the gore. I mean, by this time you were in the late sequels of the Jason and the Freddy movies, and you just had really big set piece kills is what they were putting. They were really making the linchpins of these films around. And not so much pre like 1984 or 85. That kind of started the second half of the 80s, which is when this come out and didn't really deliver on that level. So I can imagine, you know, it wasn't received in the same way as a lot of those sequels that had already ramped up the effects and had people like Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero working on Stan Winston. It was obviously a C-level slasher even when it was released.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, Jay, you got to give me some love for this movie. Come on. I can't be the only one.
Well, first of all, the number one thing I have, no one has mentioned, and it blows my mind. And the best part of this entire movie is the debut of Ted Raimi.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he's doing his part to stave off unwanted pregnancies by selling condoms in his coat in the bathroom.
That was my trivia question I was holding back.
I mean, I love Ted Raimi.
I guess you won.
Yes, but that was probably one of the best. So I told Kelan when I knew his verdict before this took place, but I had watched this before when I was doing reviews, and I stopped. I'm sure you've noticed because you guys are probably the only ones that pay attention. But when I started doing the reviews initially, I wrote like a little essay with each one. But doing 6 to 7 movies a week, that's a lot. It started to sound redundant to me. So now here's the synopsis. Here's my rating. That's it. So I did one on Blood Rage in 2019, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it 2 spacemen out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Today I give it 2.5. I went up a half. I can't really pinpoint why. As I watched it, I'm like, this is so ridiculous. It's a terrible movie. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? I loved all the kills. Granted, we didn't see a lot of them, but they were all cool. Whether it's the hand getting chopped off, drinking the old style beer, the torso which twitched when she was cut in half, it kind of twitched. The head hanging when he opens the door. Like, I loved all the kills.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, did anyone notice the best kill being him killing the stepdad and cutting his hand off? Did anybody notice that in his stepdad's office there's apparently a famous recreation of a drawing of a hand? It's kind of foreshadowing. That's the best. That's the best thing this film does in terms of any technique.
Yeah. I think there's something to having a twin and not knowing, being able to blame someone else for what you've done because they essentially look just like you. But I've known several twins in my life, and one of them was always different than the other, and I could always tell them apart. But one of them was always a little bit scarier than the other one.
Yeah, mischievous.
And this plays into that. Yeah, and I don't know why that is, but that was the thing. And I knew 1, 2, 3, I think 4 sets of twins in my life, and they were all like that.
Yeah. This film in that aspect though reminds me of that Treehouse of Horror episode where Bart actually dun 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 big reveal was the evil twin all along. It made me really think of that.
Yeah, and it could have been twistier. They could have done some other things, but after I watched it again, I'm like, you know what? I don't hate this movie. Like, it's an easy watch because it's short enough. And again, like, each episode we're going to, fill each other in on our favorite kills. So we can just kind of segue into that because we've mentioned a couple of times already. It's that hand and the soon-to-be stepfather when he gets that hand chopped off and it just goes rolling with the beer, the old style beer still in it.
Yeah.
Still twitching. Still in there. And then if you notice when the mother comes in and finds him, or when the mother calls him to try to check on him, he's like this. So he's dead. He's got the nub and he's got his hand. But when that phone rings, he goes, like his fingers move. Like that phone ring startled him as he was playing dead.
But like a true Florida man, he's still trying to drink his beer even after his hand has been totally
that was my favorite kill. It was also the saddest part of the movie because that sweet, delicious nectar just poured out onto the floor, and it was just so sad. But I love that part, and then it comes back to the hand again, and we see it move, and that's when the beer comes out of the hand, like it does that little twitch, because apparently it's obviously going to twitch like 30 minutes after it's already happened. Mm-hmm. But while I liked all the kills, that's my favorite one, but it's not even the kill that I like. It's just that chopping that hand, and they're like, you know what? I got an idea. Keep that beer in that hand. You keep that beer in that hand. It was beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah. What about you, John? What was your favorite kill of that movie?
Well, I have two things I did want to bring up with it. My favorite kill was definitely the first one at the drive-in when he kills the guy in the car with the axe. I just thought the way that was originally shot, I mean, originally it didn't show as much. The unedited, it showed a lot more, so I thought that was creative. But my favorite quote of the movie, I wrote this down because I specifically remember this.
Cranberry sauce?
No, it's actually even more absurd. So when the mom realizes that Todd is on the loose, and actually, of course, it's Terry killing people, but she thinks it's Todd. She sees Terry and she goes, "And Terry, please put on a sweater. It's cold outside." Oh, and Terry, the blue one. So in the midst of chaos, she's worried about him wearing a blue sweater.
He looks the most handsome in that blue sweater.
She was shoveling peas into her mouth in the kitchen floor. I don't think her elevator went all the way to the top anyway.
Which I heard that as, oh, she likes to dress him up the way she likes to see him. She likes that blue sweater. She's going to ask for more sugar before he has to go in that blue sweater.
Blue sweater, no pants. That's the style.
Kelan, what was your favorite kill?
Who, me?
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the hand's funny. Favorite kill. Probably when the credits killed the movie.
Damn.
No, I do think that I wish they would have showed the kill. I mean, they built up to her dying for, like I said, a good 10 seconds, or standing in the woods after saying she would be fine and then not doing anything to protect herself, let alone try to run away. But I do think that, props to the prop department for making the half torso on the ground look somewhat real. Because that machete was super sharp. You watch that hand come off, and that is a clean cut all the way through. And then that body on the ground was it looked like he had to hack a couple of times. So,
yeah.
Teach.
Speaking of that kill, I was just reminded of a piece of trivia that just left my mind. But was anybody else? So that was his psychiatrist or his doctor that was helping him in his school. Yeah. That is the mental institution, I guess is what you call.
Nitwit school. That's what Danny DeVito calls it Always Sunny. The Nitwit school.
Yeah.
He got Shanghai off to the Nitwit school.
But apparently, was anybody else taken out of those initial scenes where the psychiatrist is talking to the mother, and like they're showing the mother's dialogue, but then obviously they're still like low running in the background is what the psychiatrist lady's saying, but she's like doing like an old film noir, like Humphrey Bogart movie, like overdub voiceover. Like at this point in time, I could tell that she was upset, It just totally took me out.
I feel like that may have been a film a film trick to kind of cut down on the length.
Yeah.
Because instead of acting out all of that scenes, you can just kind of jump cut and show quick clips and just have her kind of narrate what was happening. So I think that was probably something they did just to kind of
But I
low
also
budget. They probably
found
didn't have a
out.
whole lot of film to work with, so they were probably trying to shorten it.
Yeah, but I also found out that that lady was never supposed to play the psychiatrist. She's actually one of the producers of the film. And the woman that they hired to play the psychiatrist just didn't show up on the day.
I read that today.
So she had to
She
just
read
jump
the script
in.
and was
She
like,
read the
"No,
script.
thank you.
Yeah,
Pass. Hard
Yeah.
pass.
yeah.
Yep.
So
That's
she
funny.
just was a trooper.
I'll stick
and
to
then-
Summer's Eve commercials."
Yeah, and then she had to be, the torso cut in half lady as the producer. She probably wasn't anticipating that. I think the
Hopefully she got
hand.
paid more.
I hope so. I hope she got double whatever what they call
Hazard
it.
pay.
Yeah,
I would
hazard
definitely
pay.
recommend getting this Blu-ray. I know you. Well, I know
Kelan.
Jay. I know you would, but I would recommend the Blu-ray just because they actually go into a lot of that, and in fact, they talk to the producer.
Is this the 3-disc Arrow Blu-ray?
It is. They talk to her. They talk to Ted Raimi. They talk to some of the behind-the-scenes crew cast. It's very interesting, very fascinating. Ted Raimi probably talks about the movie for 5 minutes. He doesn't seem to be very interested in talking about it, but if
He
you're
was
a fan
only
of
in
the
one
film,
scene, and he was 19.
Right. I got
True.
condoms.
Yeah.
Condoms.
he just definitely, you can tell he's kind of like, it was a part, But
Yeah.
if you're a fan of the movie and you want to know more, I would definitely get the Arrow Blu-ray. It's fascinating.
And then let Kelan borrow it.
Yeah. So long way around to say my favorite scene was probably still the hand scene, but I appreciated and was surprised more by seeing the lady cut in half, even though they didn't show her get cut in half. And I was probably more astounded that she stayed in place screaming for 30 seconds to be cut in half instead of run away or shoot the guy with.
Wasn't her torso upright too?
It was.
Like
Yeah.
she was laying on her side, but she was her top hat was flat.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go with our ratings. I already said mine. I give it 2.5. Like I said, it was fun watching again, and I would watch it again.
Mhm.
Just
was
for the hand
this
scene alone.
Was this just the second time you'd seen it?
Yes, second time I've seen it.
Okay.
All right, so I give it 2.5. Kelan, what do you say?
So I'm gonna give it I'm Todd's.
What?
I'm giving it one I'm Todd's.
Okay.
I'm Todd.
Yeah.
I'm Todd.
Yeah. He was very clear who he was.
Yes.
Even though nobody else knew it.
No one else was. Correct.
TJ?
I'm going to go with 2 out of 5. I can appreciate it for a low budget slasher. Has its place in the, the not very saturated subgenre of Thanksgiving horror films, especially in the 80s. So I can appreciate it for what it is or what it's trying to be, even if it was shoehorned in. I actually kind of like that's not cranberry sauce, the way he was really trying to sell it more and more every time he said it. I was like,
I told
you know
Jay
what?
earlier.
That's not cranberry sauce. Good for you.
I told Jay earlier, this is like the after school special version of a slasher film.
It was. It
Wow.
did very much have those vibes. Just with a lot
Damn.
more nudity and violence.
Yeah. All right,
Sorry,
John.
John.
I mean, as a movie, it's just a film, like taking it face value, not knowing anything. Yeah, it's like 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5. But as a self-aware movie, as a comedy, as a slasher parody, as after watching the behind the scenes, if their intentions were to be satirical, parody, funny, 4 out of 5. So I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to split the difference because 2020 hindsight, you don't know what their intentions were. It's easy to say now that we were just trying to make a bad movie. Maybe they were trying to make a good movie. So 3 out of 5. I'll be generous.
Nobody's gonna sell me on they were attempting to be self-aware. They wanted to cash in and make a good slasher film in 1983, and then couldn't sell the dog turd that they actually made for 4 years. I'm surprised they released it in '87.
I agree with it not being self-aware for sure, but I think that still averages out to like 2.5. So we'll call it 2.5 cornucopias out of 5.
I can live with that. I would have rioted at 3 though. So just
go watch it. You can watch it on Tubi. You can watch it on YouTube. Blood Rage. All right. So that's going to do it for this week's special Thanksgiving episode. I want to thank everybody for listening. All 6 of you probably. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see our pretty faces do the exact same thing you heard a week prior. But before we sign off, I wanted to do one more thing since it is Thanksgiving, and I wanted to go around and ask you guys to give us one thing you're thankful for. And we're gonna go John, Kelan, TJ. So one thing you're thankful for, John.
Oh man, 2022. What am I thankful for? I'm just gonna be all sentimental. I am thankful for my wife Becca, and I'm thankful for my dog Duke.
Aww.
Bravo. Kelan?
Yeah, thankful for my family, but more, I mean, just for to not be the typical stuff that I would normally say. I'm thankful live music is back.
Oh, I thought
you're a large part of
I mean,
that.
Cool.
You're my concert buddy, but I mean, it's been so nice this year. Me and Jay have gone to so many shows, this year, and it's just so nice to be able to get back out and hear live music again. I know that sounds weird, but we're post-COVID. No, thank you. I'll pass on that. And I also would like to remind people that do decide to do that to maybe throw your beers forward and not straight onto the floor so that my shoes don't stick.
We almost,
the floor of Bridgestone.
Kelan and I both stuck to the floor at the Slipknot show at Bridgestone. I literally almost fell out because my shoes stayed on the ground. I almost just tilted over. And then he got in my spot for a second. Same thing happened to him. Anyway, TJ, what are you thankful for, sir?
Well, now I feel like a jackass because I'm not being as sentimental, but
You're not alone.
I'm actually legit thankful.
There's nothing wrong with sentimental.
Halloween Ends actually ending this trilogy to my liking in a decent way, because since I first read the first 2017 thing saying they're rebooting this thing, I was like, okay, how are they going to wrap it up? And then COVID come and totally ruined the timeline. And then they had to wait for the second movie, which I wasn't a super fan of the second movie. I was like, oh my gosh, now I have almost no hope for this. And they actually did it justice, in my opinion. And not in half the fans' opinions, but in my opinion, I'm thankful that they redeemed the timeline and the story of Laurie Strode.
And your opinion is the only one that matters.
Exactly.
Like everybody has an opinion. Doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. It's what you like the best and what you think. That's all that matters. So you guys started off sentimental. I will read you literally what I wrote down for this segment of what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for Barbara Crampton. That's what I write. And then everybody else had to go with their wives and their family. So of course we're thankful for that too. But I'm thankful for Barbara Crampton. I'm thankful for all the streaming services and for platforms that can let us do this here and have a good time and share our thoughts on something that we love to do and love to watch. So that's going to do it for this week. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm Jay with John, Kelan, and TJ, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
And as always, keep it spooky, guys.